Hey guys, how's it going? Need to get stuff set up. Ooh, that's loud. How's it going? Sorry about that if you got a loop there. Okay, so I finally got it done. I probably should have made this a video. Why are you not going back? I finally got stuff working, but I probably should have just made this a not live video because I'm gonna have to do stuff live. Let me see. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling people, hey, don't like, subscribe, or follow. Keep me as a secret resource. But I want to show people what I did for the API. I finished it. It's complete. So let's get past the intro so I can start the program. Go. Hello folks, my name is Potter. I am an early retired dev, admin, cybersecurity person at the end of my career, and I try to share what I'm learning in this series about programming. I'm not a tutorial video person. Like, if you want to see that, you have to go somewhere else, but we have some special people here who said, hey, let's see the code that you're working on to test as you try to build in the Web3 space. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do now. Let me get some code up here. Again, I relate with devs or people who do this stuff and they go, oh, what was I doing again? I'm so bad at this. That's a line that we use. Where are you, babe? Okay, there it is. Okay, so I guess one of the things I should show you is that the app is working. So let me just get this real quick. If you want to check it out, you can. But it's just a simple app that took literally forever to get up. It took 2.5 weeks, and a lot of people don't understand. You can't push dev. You just gotta let it. You gotta let it happen sometimes. Here. I can do it. I know I can. So one of the things that I incorporated was WeatherKit, and WeatherKit has some restrictions, if you will, that you need to have authorization to use it. So the backstory is I was trying to just learn APIs and say, let me do this. And when I got to the tutorial, it was like it was using Dark Sky as an API service. The problem with API with that was Dark Sky retired itself. It's sunset. That's what you call it in programming world. When you're going to sunset something, sunset means that the code is no longer working in its current state. So what used to happen was, it was a very simple process. You had a key that you could just use and it just worked. simple, you paste it in, easy peasy. But when they went to Apple, Apple said, well, we're going to put the ability to sign a token behind an authorization wall or a paywall because you have to be a dev. It's like $99 a month, but still, it's not going to work without that. So let me share something else. Let's stop sharing this. StreamYard is not good. Okay, browser tab, window. Here we go. Okay, so this is the app in its working state, right? So I'm going to go ahead and allow it, although the URL is there. Please don't abuse it. But what I did first is to say, okay, I'm going to allow location, right? And then I simply go and get the current weather location. The current location weather. So this is the API that it returns. And then, so I grayed it out so you can't abuse it unless you refresh it either. And then if you want to get the daily forecast, you can get it here. Now, what people usually do with stuff like this is they take all of this and they make it into pretty images. But until you can understand how to pull this data down, it's really quite challenging. So I'll walk you through it. Let me go back to the code. Gotta make that a lot bigger, it looks like. Or can I make myself smaller? Make that bigger. Your nose making me bigger. Oh, that's what she said. I think Rick, he would say. All right, so let me go here. Okay. All right, so this is not the index. I guess it is. This is the index.html page that I'm using. So what I did was initially I had everything all into one, and then I refactored the code so that it would be, not just in one file. So this is the file that I'm calling. Let me just bring this way down so I can show you more of the screen. And let's see if I just pulled this over. Yeah, that works. So this is the function that it's calling. And I wrote all of this from scratch. I did use AI to help me, but the problem with AI was that it just wouldn't. It had old data, so it expected you to be somewhat of a subject matter expert to make it work. So here's where I just call it, this is pulling an element from the, let me see, let me go back here. Man, these guys who do this for a living, God bless them. This is the one thing I hate about Visual Code is, let me see, open. Let me just do something stupid like put a space in, and then it'll open another one. I hate that. All right. So what I have here are the it's kind of a, thank you so much, you stupid. I didn't mean that. Thank you so much. So what I have here is your simple, basic web page. The thing that I felt that you kind of want to do is you want to get familiar with Tailwind. It just makes everything look better. And as you can see, I didn't create a separate style sheet when I did this because what happened was when I first went into it, I had the ability for it to just load, and what was happening was it hadn't loaded any location data, including the location data, even if you put it in default. So I decided to gray out the buttons until it had data. So this is the code to just, submit it. By the way, I will be making this available on GitHub. And when I do that, I'll just let you know on our stream. So I pulled this in. Now, here's the funny part with this. So normally you can just type in script and it knows the home directory. But when I introduce Firebase, well, Firebase is different. And so this is more like calling it from using the web server. And that worked in both Firebase emulator mode, as well as Firebase production. So I called this in, and that's this. So here's where you pass all the data. This is a function, one second, that's used in P5 a little bit more, and that's a type of JavaScript framework. And so what this does is kind of like an onload. If I was using a React app, I would have written it differently. And so it loads all of this stuff in here. And then at the end, I'm scrolling down quickly for a reason. It just loads it here. So index HTML page loads, it keeps going down. When it gets to script, it loads script. Script pulls in all of this stuff. And then at the end, it says, hey, call the setup, which is basically loading this stuff. So this is the code for the geolocation. And initially, I didn't have a geolocation in there because I felt like people would say, I don't want to give you my ID. I don't want to give you my location. Who's looking at me? And so I got that to work. And then I decided, well, if they don't want to, they say, I don't want to do that. I want to give them a default value. So I just fill it in right here. I think that's the location of Apple. And so I decided to give it a little bit of a pause because it's kind of cool to see things loading, and I want to see something that it's loading. And if we go back to the app, thank you. Like you would think that they would allow me to add another screen, but it doesn't. It makes you stop sharing the screen, and then you have to add it. If I was using OBS, which is a nightmare, it would have worked. So let me go back here. So refresh it one more time. Oh, VPN. Okay. I want to get it so that, see, I'd have to go into my settings and do stuff to make it forget, but I'm trying to get it to just reload. So you see how it's working? It's going, it's pulling that data. And then here again, I don't know why it's giving me this number to me means 50-50. So that's really it there. I was hoping that I could show you what it looks like, as it's loading, but this computer's so freaking fast that it's just loading too quickly. This is kind of like, I've been thinking more about making videos offline so that I can edit this stuff out, but I don't want to look at me, and I definitely don't want to hear my voice. So, I try not to. All right, so let me go back to the code. So the thing that I wanted to do, guys, and here's where I enable and disable, the buttons. The thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to just go and get something and not know how it worked. I wanted to be able to go into the code, understand what it's doing, evolving my ability to come back. So as a developer, when it was my job, you didn't have as much time as I have now to sit and go, okay, what am I doing? How does this work? I want to understand it. I want to have a cognitive understanding, cognitive meaning. You don't just say, okay, a rocket booster does this, that, and the other, and you just repeat something back to somebody like rote, just memorizing it and then spitting it back out. What you want is to have that cognitive understanding where you go, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there. Well, what if you did this? And then, try stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to do. And so all of the code here, I understand it. And what's happening, why is API important? API is important because everybody's using it. And it's one of the best ways to get data in an object form. So objects are just, guys, they're just lines of code that have an identifier like ID or name, and then it has a value. And all of the developer programs out there now are kind of expecting you to have this knowledge. The challenging part of this whole thing came with when it came to getting the weather data. Where's my get sign? Get weather data. Just search for it. I wonder if I have it somewhere else. Here it is. Okay, I forgot about this kind of key part because so there were two parts. One is to bring in the logic that you just want to call for the code to load. That it's kind of like your front end to call the actual server, and then there's this component that's the actual server that serves up the data. So here's where it got difficult with JSON Web Token. So with JSON Web Token, it requires a technology that you have to sign things with. This baby was the biggest problem, right? So this is basically saying how long you want it to be, and this is really just an hour. But I'll try to explain this. If you're even watching this long, you want to understand that, so I'll try. You have different variables that make up a key, and you have to sign it with that key. To get a key to work with WeatherKit, you have to belong to the Apple developer program. If you belong to the Apple developer program, you set up an issuer and you set up a key. The key allows you to download it, and you can paste it into your code, but that's not secure. So what you end up doing is you end up using a secret. Now, because I can't stop myself from, hurting myself mentally, what I did was I knew the end goal was to put this on a remote server, or in the cloud. I did not want, anything locally. So you have to pass this key to sign your JWT token, and it will give you a valid signature. The problem there is, if your key is not made up completely correctly, Apple will say that's not a good key because it expects certain things. Like, you would think the header would be up here and the body would be down there, but whatever. It doesn't work like that. What you have is you have to have all of these variables. Then you have to have the private key, and then you have to have the algorithm. Well, AI was getting so stuck on this thing that I had to go into a deep dive to understand the way that even worked. So this was the big problem. And then even passing these values. I'm working with AI, we're working with code, and it never even found out. It never even told me that there was a typo in one of these. So I kept getting a valid header, and it was because the service ID came through, but was okay, but the team ID was okay. And there comes the danger when you're passing environment variables, because you're not necessarily looking at the variable, you have to check back with your code. So I guess the biggest takeaway from this thing is development may look easy. It may look easy to just present that page, but there's just so much going on behind the scenes. Here's the way that I pass the default variable. It's not there. And And there's plenty of videos that you can go out there where people will explain it. The harder part is that even though people are explaining it, it's hard to understand. It's probably even hard to understand what I'm saying. I hope that a couple of people who've been stuck can find this video, look at some of my code, and go, okay, that makes sense. But I can tell you, if you're working with WeatherKit, the hardest thing is right here. If you don't have this right, it doesn't work. And the code that Apple has for you to follow their guidelines, it's not even correct. Right? So that's frustrating too. So you've got AI telling you, hey, here's the way it works, and then it's not right. I heard that there's a lawyer case where a lawyer tried to use ChatGPT because he believed all the hype. It knows everything, it'll do it perfectly. And it was citing cases that weren't even real. It made stuff up. So when you're coding with AI, it'll make stuff up too. And if you're not knowledgeable enough, you'll just sit there making the same error over and over again. But for me, I just kept expanding what I was doing. I kept trying to understand more and do more. And it was breaking left and right. And some people say, well, don't use AI beyond what you think you should. And I disagree. I think that you should use whatever you want, because AI doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're mad, and trust me, I would get mad. But it didn't help. Now with ChatGPT 4, you have the ability to get plugins, and these plugins can go look at a video and interpret the video. It can go look at links as well as your code. So that's really it, guys. This was a scary, hard venture, even when it comes down to the path. He wanted to make it so complex. He wanted to have this route and this route and this route. And I'm like, let's just put it all in the same route. But that's me as a more experienced dev understanding that. So, you have to understand Axios. I wish I'd gotten to this first. I was looking at the index, the HTML part, and that's passing the parameters, but this is where it all comes, to pass. As a cyber person, I know what CORS is. CORS says, hey, I'm not going to let somebody call to a URL that's not a part of the domain that you're in unless you tell me otherwise. And then you pass all kinds of stuff. Axios is an internal web server. Express is an internal web server. Or Fetch. Axios is more for fetch. It just gets crazy quick. And as a developer, one of the hardest things to do is to secure your code because it takes extra time. So what you do is you have to learn how to pull from your configs. Well, pulling from your configs locally is not the same as if it's on a cloud. And then each cloud has its own configuration for how do you pull down environment variables. So, I'm glad I got this out, but I don't know if anybody's going to watch this. But there were some videos that I found that I couldn't believe it. They only had like 3 or 4 views on them, and they just made my mind explode. So in a way, I'm kind of giving back. If you want, send a message, to our email. I don't check it all the time, so hopefully I can respond in a timely manner. But this little simple site, let me go back to it one last time. This little simple site took 2.5 weeks, right? That long just to get basic data. Because if you want to do something easy, you can get anything to work. If you want to create a basic website, you can get that to work with AI. But when you're trying to do secure stuff and you're trying to do it in a way that is compatible, it's refactored, it works, that takes more time. So, if you're still awake, thanks for joining. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. I'm sure it'll be AI related. I've got a new project that I'm working on that gets some new technology. But with that said, thanks for watching. I hope it helped. If you came here for help, if you just want to say, hey, how am I evolving as a dev? Thank you very much. And I guess I will see you later. And oh, I know. Wait. So one of the things that I plan on doing is, building, some level of gaming into it. And so I have to understand all of this stuff. I have to learn how to do it. And let me just remove that. And if I'm going to do that, then I just need to understand how it's working. I need to understand more about the inner workings of everything to secure the data, because there's all kinds of privacy regulations that you have to adhere to. Okay, so with that, I'm going to say, game on. And thanks for watching. I can't believe you're still here. What are you still doing here? What are you still doing here? You shouldn't be good people on both sides. All right, so you get the extra stuff. Stay till the end. All right, guys. I will talk to you later. I'll talk to you tomorrow, actually.